Hello. All right. Well, for today, I'm doing something I've done in the past, but I've changed it up a little bit. I am going to do a tutorial on how to sew a mask with the elastic tie and the adjustable. So the elastic has an adjustable plastic round tool to move it up and down. So in the past, I showed on some of my tutorials how to do it with an elastic. And also you can fold and have the elastic where you can actually take the elastic out if it wore out. Now I've tested this quite a bit. This fashion mask, it's only for fashion purposes only on my son. So I did a lot of alterations from using my son's face, and he preferred to have this. So this is adjustable and it can fit nicely around the ears. And I'm going to show you how to do a tutorial on this fashion mask. And you can get the pattern in my Discord. The link will be down below. You cut 4, and from there you can watch the tutorial on how to sew a fashion face mask. All right, everyone, let's get started. Subscribe, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, everyone. Okay, so 1, 2, and then 3, 4. So there are 4 pieces, and all you do is after you cut that out, you want to match up your pieces. Normally when you cut them out, they pretty much stay together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sew these 2 pieces together. I am using a universal foot. So this universal foot, this particular one, I'm sewing the width. So at the edge. And this is centered, my needle centered. I know some pressure foots are a little different, but this is centered. So I'm using the edge of my foot and the needle centered. So we're doing about 3/8, and that's how I'm getting my edging. All right. So we're going to go ahead and just sew that. So what we're going to do is keep it there, and we're going to go ahead and sew. Backstitch, keep sewing around. Okay, all you're doing is sewing it. Backstitch. Okay. And cut off any threads that you may have. As you can see, it goes nicely all the way around, about 3/8 of an inch. And then you take your second piece and you go ahead and do the same thing. 3/8 of an inch. I'm doing the length of this foot. As you can see, it's just on the edge right here. And then I'm going in the center. And then we're just going to go ahead and sew it. Okay, just keep sewing it all the way down. Backstitch, secure your stitch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and iron this, and this is going to be opened up. On both of them, I'm going to go, and first off, I'm going to clip my loose threads, and I'm going to open that, and I'm going to press it, because now I'm going to do a top stitch of that, okay? All right, let me go ahead and clip this. Okay, I'm just going to go over to my ironing board, and I'm going to go ahead and clip it. Iron it. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do, now that I pressed it, so I pressed that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to top stitch. So let's go ahead and top stitch. And you want to stay as close as you can to the seam, but don't go into the seam, okay? Okay, just stay on the edge. Back stitch, secure your stitch. Okay. Okay, and then we're going to do the other side. Okay, that one is done. Okay, there's your stitching. It's a little hard to see, but the stitching's there. All right, so we open up our second one and we do the same thing. Okay, so you go ahead and top stitch. Close to the edge, not in the seam. This helps secure the seam that you pressed open. Okay. Okay. Let's see if you can see it a little better. Okay, just keep sewing. Back stitch. Then we're going to go on the other side where we just top stitched. Okay. There we go. Clip your threads. Now what I'm going to do is, so how you know that it's the top and the bottom, there's a little bit of a groove right here. This is the bottom and the top is a little straighter. So that's how you know the top and the bottom. So place your, now this ties I'm using are adjustable and they're elastic. So you can pull this up and down and adjust them. So all I'm doing is I'm placing it on the corner of the mask. And all I'm doing is just sewing it down, back stitch to secure it, and then clip off any of your threads. We're going to do the same thing here. And then we're going to back stitch, move forward, and then clip any excess threads. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same to the other side. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and sew that. Okay. And then we're going to sew the other side. Secure that down. Sew it. And then we are going to clip any threads that are loose. So I'm going to do that now. So once you have clipped all your threads, see how that stays on. And that's going to get sewn together. So what you need to do is place this inside your mask. Keep everything flat. And then what you do is you look for the top and the bottom. This is the bottom with the little groove there like that, and that's the top. So what we're going to do is match that with the other piece with right sides together. We're going to make sure the seams are matched up. Okay. So you're going to go ahead and match up the seams. And then we're just going to pin the seams. So we can secure this tightly. Okay. Make sure those are inside. And then we're going to pin the corners. Pin the corners. Match the seams at the bottom. Do the same thing on this side. Pin the corners. Pin the corners. And then we're going to pin the top, one on each side, to make sure the fabric stays in place when sewing. Then at the bottom part, we're going to put a pin here where we're going to end. And we're going to put a pin here where we start. And that's going to be our opening. So that's going to be our opening so we can pull everything through. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start stitching where that second or first pin before the second pin. And then we're going to back stitch, and then we're going to keep sewing, and we're doing the same thing. It's just on the edge of the pressure foot there. Okay. Just stay on the edge and then just keep sewing. All the way across and around. We're going to turn, we're going to sew. Okay. Then we're going to turn it. See how it's staying on the edge? Okay. So we're reaching to the last pin. Okay. And we're going to clip our loose threads. All right, so now what we're going to do is where you have that opening right here, we're going to go ahead and we're going to pull it through. Okay, so all you do is pull that through. Okay. And then what we're going to do, once it's all, see how the elastic's in place? And then what we're going to do is your edges here all the way around, we're going to go ahead and we're going to press that. So I'm going to head over to the ironing board and go ahead and press it. And then after I'm done pressing it, I'm going to go ahead and sew it. So make sure you have all your threads, like there's a little bit here, I'm going to go ahead and cut that. Make sure all your threads are cut. And so how I normally do it is, because you're not going to see this part, so what I normally do is I go ahead and don't do too much of a top stitch, but try to balance it, line it up. So we're going to go at the edge. And so since you can't really see this top stitching, I'm going to go ahead and start my seam here. The length, we're going to do 2 stitches. So far we're going to do the length of it. The width of the foot for the 1 stitch. The length of the foot, and it's going to be centered. And then we're just doing tiny back stitch, and we're just following all the way around with the width of the foot. Now I normally have my stitches a little longer in length. When I'm working with this, I'm using a Janome HD 3000 BE, and I have my stitch length at 2. Okay, and you keep doing that all the way around till you get to the part where you first started to sew. And then you just keep sewing around. And then try to match up your stitching right there, so you can get it as close as possible to matching when you do your top stitching, so it doesn't look off. And then just do a little top stitching. It's going to be a little darker there. That's why I do it right there, so it hides it by the ear. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and clip. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to go right to the edge, because if I go right to the edge, it's going to fall off the fabric on either other side. It may look right on this one, but it will fall off the thread, the stitching. So I'm going to slightly have it. So I'm going to slightly have it to the edge. We'll go about here, and then we'll do our back stitch, and then we just continue sewing like that. Okay, there's a little bit of a diagonal happening, and then you keep going all the way around. Okay. That's why I don't use the double that's why I don't use the double needles for this stitching, because you need to have it specifically done a little more freely. And then you just continue to go around. Make sure your tension is on track. And then we're getting to the end. There's a slight diagonal, just a couple of stitches, and then we're going to go ahead and do our back stitch and try to stay right on there, even though it'll still be a little darker than the other stitches. And then you just clip off your edges, and see there's no skip stitches. The stitches are consistent. Okay, so you can all the way across. Okay, and that's how you sew the mask with the elastic, and it adjusts very nicely. And there's your mask.